Wiley was definitely one of my.
Yeah.
Like those three people.
I like the low ski one.
And low ski. Do you know what it is with all those people that you've mentioned? It's a conversation.
Yeah.
So they kind of give as good as, like, I'll say something, they'll come back with something, and those kind of always work best for me.
Do you find people are sometimes terrified to come on?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Like, it really.
But I think that's why people love your show.
No, but
because it's
so
annoying,
though,
you get. But then I think from that, the reason that people watch the show is that they know they're going to get an unfiltered.
Well, yeah, that's what I hope. But then it deters a lot of people, which is annoying. But then
Who's on the top of your wish list?
Well, you definitely was one. I'm not even saying that because I told you I DM'd you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I'll find it.
Like, I can imagine how many
I don't actually go on there a lot. The only time I ever go on there is to DM. Who did I? The last person, like H, for instance. I have no way of contacting H because I don't have a phone and go on email and.
We're good to go. We're good, even though we were talking for.
Everyone's phones on silent.
Even though it's still so weird because we were just talking for like loads. But how are we talking? That's how we. Hi guys, and welcome back to the ZEZE MILLZ Show. We are in another location again. I feel like this should be my thing, just popping up in different locations. But today, the reason why we are in a special location is because we have none other than Ed Sheeran in the motherfucking building. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for changing location. I know because I was meant to do it last week, innit, but I caught COVID.
I know. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was COVID, wasn't it? It was like I was ill.
Is that the first time you've had it?
Well, my wife got it in the summer,
right.
And then I didn't get it.
Okay, right.
I was living with her for the 10 days of isolation, and then I went to the GQ Awards, and then the next day, loads of people ringing me being like, "Oh shit, this person had it," and then I didn't. So I kind of thought I was out of the woods with it. And I just got it and did my isolation, and that was that.
I feel like catching COVID right now is when you're, so I'm filming a lot as well. I'm doing a lot of filming, and that's like always in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, if I catch COVID, what happens? Do we have to stop filming?
Well, I caught it album week.
Yeah, that is so mad.
Like literally the day before the album was coming out, I got the, when was it? No, it was Saturday. It was the Saturday before the album came out. And that was always in the back of my head, like, right. I don't want to get it album week. But, you know, I was working so much, so hard. The day before I was diagnosed with it, it was like a 6 a.m. start, and then Zoom interviews back to back, like no breaks until like 9:30 p.m. And then I got up at 3 a.m. and then went to France, and then like ended up getting back at like 1 a.m. And then that was when I tested and had it. And part of me was like, I think this is the universe's way.
Telling you to slow down.
Slow down a little bit.
Okay. I'm going to rewind. The first time I ever saw you, do you remember an event called Caught in the Act? Back in the day, right? With Nicholas and...
It's so mad because that one gets brought up to me quite
that's
a lot.
Where I first ever came across you. And I was literally on the way here, I was talking to my friend. I was like, yeah, guess who I'm interviewing? I was like, Ed Sheeran. She's like, no fucking way. And I was like, yeah. She's like, do you remember when we saw him at I was like, yes. And That
was the fashion show,
No,
right?
It was like a British version of Wild and Out. It was with Justin and Nick Slick. So, and I remember you came on the stage and you had the pedal loop or the loop pedal. And I remember we was in the car just now. We was trying to say we didn't know what that was. Like when you first came on the stage and you was starting and stopping and doing. We went home and we were trying to describe it to our family, like. He had this thing on stage and he pressed it, and then he did another thing, and then he pressed it again.
But it's mad. I've used that since I was 14 years old, and I remember when I headlined Glastonbury, and I'd played probably 1,500 shows at this point with a loop station, and I played at Glastonbury, and all the chatter online was, "Why is he playing to a backing track?" And I'm like, I swear I've used this enough that people would know that it's a thing, but definitely at the beginning it's very common on the singer-songwriter circuit. So if I used it at like a regular acoustic night, it wouldn't be anything different. But when I came to Sunday Show, for instance, and played there, like that, it was original. But it's actually not that an original thing. Like it's a very common singer-songwriter tool.
Yeah, that's the first time I came across you, and then I was speaking to somebody else and they were saying about, I was saying, yeah, Ed, and they was like, Ed, everybody has an Ed story. Like you meet somebody and they're always like nice stories, like, oh yeah, he was so nice to me. And I saw just this morning that you've done 1 billion streams on your new album. And I was thinking, how have you managed to remain like so humble, so down to earth, so even the fact that you still do such a solid like rollout when it comes to your album. And I would say you don't necessarily need to do that, but you still sit down with so many different people. You've come here today. Why do you still do that?
Well, I think the work ethic never goes. I think I've always got hunger to, because I spent 4 years creating this album. I don't want to release it into an abyss. I don't want to just put it out and no one listens to it. And I really want people to...
But do you think that would ever happen though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, especially nowadays. Like music, some of the biggest artists in the world at the moment are releasing songs that are invisible a week later. And it's really like, there's so much choice out there. There's so much music. Spotify's a wonderful thing because it gives so much sort of spotlight on everyone. So new artists can blow up like that. You can have a TikTok moment, it blows up like that. So everyone's kind of equal now. There's no like, the big artist release song and it's definitely going to be big. Like it has to be really good and you have to work it. So that on the side of the hunger and work ethic. And in all honesty, I actually really enjoy doing it. I'm really enjoying the conversation with you. I spend a lot of time locked away and not really seeing anyone because it can get quite crazy if I go out. So I enjoy talking to people about music.
Yeah.
But in terms of the keeping my feet on the ground thing, like I've definitely had moments where I haven't, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like I moved to Los Angeles, I drank the Kool-Aid, I've had famous friends that I would only hang out with famous people in Los Angeles, and I just got really sad. It like really like brought my happiness down.
Oh really? Okay.
And then I moved back home to Suffolk, where all my school friends are the same. Everyone in the town knows me, everyone in the supermarket knows me, everyone in the pub knows me, and I am just Ed there. I'm just like, there's nothing special about me there. And I think this is what is good about, what is good and bad about UK press is that they really bring you back down to earth. And I get savaged by them. Like I release an album and they hate it before it's even come out. Like they can't wait to say they hate it. But there's an odd pride there as well, where you go around the world and you have this success and they go, oh, he's one of us. But then when you're back home, it's like...
They're like, wait a minute, slow down.
Yeah, but it's happened to everyone. It's happened to Adele, it happened to One Direction, it happened to Mumford & Sons, happened to, it's happened to Stormzy. I mean, like, he's kind of got so fucking big that everyone's proud of him, but there's also a side where they're like, oh, he's too big now.
How do you like deal with that though? How do you not,
Well, I make music because I love it.
Right.
And that is the only thing that I know, because I've always done it. I don't necessarily love releasing records, I just do it because I'm proud of the work and I put it out. But it is quite you're in quite a vulnerable position because you've created stuff that is so personal to you that only you have really listened to, and then you put it out and you go, well, what do you think?
Because I listened to the album, it's a very personal album. How you've changed now that you're married, now that you're a dad, like how that affects your music, and you can really see that in the album. You made me cry, by the way. I listened to, was it Visiting Hours?
Visiting Hours, yeah.
And I listened to that and it reminded me of my gran, because there's the lyric in there where you're like, so much has changed since you've been gone. That's kind of how I feel about my gran, because she used to watch daytime TV and she loves all these type of things, and now I'm like doing it, but she's not here to see it. So that really like resonated with me. And how do you feel, because you're saying you don't enjoy releasing it necessarily, but what do you do to kind of combat that feeling, or that anxious feeling, or okay, I'm putting it out to the world now,
I sort of only I only really take in the people that I actually like love and respect. So I got an email actually this morning from Fraser T. Smith, and it was just like, it's just a paragraph of, he was like, I had a run to your album and this is why I really like it and this is why I think you're important. And that outweighs anything that would be negative, because I'm like, I genuinely respect this man's craft and I think he's a great songwriter. And like, I got an email from Stormzy yesterday kind of saying the same thing. And those are the things that make, not that I'm like making music for my peers' approval, but if I've got something that I put out that's been shat on by so many publications or whatever, but then the people that I actually rate are rating it, then it kind of outweighs it, I think.
going back to the beginning, I first came across you via SBTV.
Yeah, Jamal was going to come today.
I know, he just messaged me. He's like, how did it go? I was like, we haven't done it yet. And but how did that happen? Like, how did SBTV, you, Jamal, how did it all just work out?
I mean, I'll take you right back to the beginning. When I was 15, I had a MySpace, and I listened to, you know, I bought Boy in the Corner when it came out, and then I bought like Playtime's Over, Wiley, and the Boy Better Know mixtapes, and Big Nasty's What's the Story, Bricks and Glory. So I was plugged in and listening, but I was a singer-songwriter, so I was also listening to Damien Rice and Niz Loppy. But then I got a MySpace, and suddenly it wasn't out of the question to start MySpacing people. I remember MySpacing Chipmunk after I'd seen like the Westwood thing, being like, if you ever want to do a song and stuff like that. And DJ Scholar from Rough Squad and Slicks both replied. And this is like, I'm like 15. And they said, here's some beats, right over them. I had a 4-track recorder in my room with a tiny like shitty microphone, and I wrote some hooks for them. And then one ended up on Slicks' mixtape, which as a 15-year-old kid in Suffolk was the coolest thing in school. I was like, I'm on a member of Rough Squad's mixtape, and I had the mixtape, and I would bring it in. So that was like my first flirtation with the UK scene.
Right.
And then I moved to London, and then everything was just there. You know, I was sort of hid away in the countryside, and then I came to London, and I would start doing nights. Like there was a night called the Cordless Show, which was like an online TV show, but then they did gigs at university. So I ended up being like the opening act for like Gracious K or whatever when the migraine skank. So then I was doing that, and then I started meeting people. I did I Love Live, and I met Julie Adenuga and Cyan Anderson, and then through them that world kind of opened up a little bit more. And at the same I Love Live, Jamal was there. And I'd spoken to Jamal online because he'd done a post about, he was like, what's a good movie to watch? And Precious had just come out, and I just watched it in the cinema. And I was like, you should go and watch Precious. And he was like, oh, I've just seen a video of you that I filmed at Jake Gosling's studio doing The City. I've just seen a video of you. Would you like to come and do an SBTV? And we got the train down together to do it at Jake's studio, and then at the train station I filmed another one, and then when we got back to London I filmed another one. We went to Twin Bee's house to watch an Arsenal game, I think. And just from there he's been one of my best mates, and he really keeps me plugged in on things. Like whenever I hang out with it, like he'll constantly send me new acts that he's digging, basically.
You're still very much ingrained in the scene, like especially in the black music space. Even you doing a collaboration with like Tion and Central C, really, it's not something that you necessarily have to do.
It's also something that opens you up for a lot of criticism as well. So like I feel, and when I did the Fumes, Central and Tion track, it was the first time I didn't feel any backlash from any. It was the first time I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I can, because I've always loved it, but I do understand the, you know, the criticism from Wiley being like,
I don't think I've ever seen you and thought, there are people that I've seen, I'm like, yeah, you're really trying to benefit off the culture right now.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever thought that about you, because I feel like you have a really good balance. Do you get what I mean? There's a thin line between like cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Are you aware of it when you are doing songs like that could be a thing?
Yeah, and you know, the way that so I've done a feature for Fumes' project, I've done a feature for Tion's project, and I'm going to do a feature with Central. And for me, that's my way of balancing it. Not like you just do something for me, and so that's my way of balancing it. And like I remember speaking to Fuse about this, because Fuse was like, we should make some music. And I was very sort of like, I don't want to feel like I'm appropriating any culture, so let me come to Ghana, let me live there, let me live at your house, let me create music, I'll bring my wife, we'll share food together. I was there for like a good amount of time, and then when my song came out, I then also had a song that I sung in Twee with him and Mugiz, and I think that you just always have to balance it. It's not like I understand that I'm in a position where I am a big artist for Atlantic, and sometimes they're like, maybe don't do features at this point, which is where the argument with Wiley started with, I know this is probably going to bring up a whole load of shit again,
yeah.
but it started, we made a collaborations project with a lot of artists, and the deal was swap for swap. So everyone on that project, I swapped. And I did a song for Wiley called If I Could, and it was going to come out, but then he was going to drop it the day of A-Team coming out, which was my first major label single. So I remember saying to him, would you mind either the week before or either the week after? Like, and that's it. But I don't know if maybe it didn't come across that way. And I think he had obviously a big problem with Ben Cook as well. And yeah, he just basically said that I wasn't allowing him to do it. But it did come out like a week later, and it is, I'm really proud of that song. I love that song. And by the way, like, I do love him. I love his music.
I was gonna say, like, because he's kind of said no, he's not gonna ever be friends or whatever again. Does that make you?
Oh yeah, no, but I'm like,
how does that feel for you though? Because
well, we weren't really friends to begin. Like I've always respected his craft and his music, but we only ever really created music together. I went on stage with him, and yeah, I think he's the Godfather, isn't it? So, but yeah, I don't think there's a world where we go and have Sunday lunch together every week, you know?
Being a father, like, how do you balance all of that with what you're doing?
Everything in my life since getting married and having a kid has been all about balance. It's not about like cutting things out or like, you know, yeah, it's about balance and keeping family first, but also like she's very high up in her job as well, and work is super important. So work is, sometimes you put work before family and sometimes you put family before work, and I think that's just the balance that you have to straddle, I guess. Yeah.
I liked the Sandman song.
Yeah.
It was on the album on Apple Music. You've got like a breakdown of every song. You've done it kind of a little bit before, but this time it was like a really like in-depth kind of breakdown of to what every song meant. I read that before I listened to it.
That's good, thank you.
Which was because I just thought, oh, like you're really taking the time to tell us what every song meant. And then you said after you did Waiting Hours, you did the Sandman because it kind of broke it down, which thank God for that, because I literally was like crying, and then Sandman came on and I was like,
I wanted to go from death into life, yeah. But I mean, the reason I did that, I find from my success, a lot of people think that the music that I make is kind of like calculated now. Excuse the pun with the album name, but I wanted people to be like, no, these are all real life things that I went through, and you're feeling emotion to the song because it's actually real emotion. I'm not trying to make you feel emotion. I just felt like I've never ever had lows like when my mate died, and I've never had highs like having a daughter, and I wanted the album to really flow into that. And I often find, as I said, like before I've even released an album, people make their mind up on what the album is. So I wanted, if you're listening to a song, for you to actually know what the song means to me, rather than just think he's trying to have a hit or whatever.
So you mentioned earlier about MySpace. You started off with MySpace. So how's that been for you? I know about MySpace. We're in the same age group. So we've literally gone through all the eras of like social media. How have you like adjusted when it comes to releasing music, even like your rollouts? How's that been for you?
It terrifies me every time, because I actually don't think I'm going to do this again, because I disappear after every album. But then I come back and the world is just different. I came back this time and they're like, we must set you up a TikTok account. I'm like, why? And you know, my launch of my single was this big TikTok gig, and it just changes. So I put out my first album, and it was iTunes and physical. So I did 100,000 that week, and maybe like 20,000 were iTunes and 80,000 were physical. Go into HMV, sign the albums. And then I disappeared for a bit, I toured, and then the next album came out, and suddenly it's like iTunes, but it was individual tracks on iTunes. So you would fill up the top 10 on iTunes, and then streaming kind of. But streaming, I remember going over to Sweden, and it was a time where my first debut album had sold, it'd gone like platinum here and platinum here and platinum here, all over Europe. And I got to Sweden and I was like, how's the album doing? And they were like, we've sold 0 copies. But it's been #1 on Spotify for 20 weeks. I was like, what the fuck is Spotify? And I need to know about this. So going into my second album.
That's so mad that you're even saying that. Like,
yeah, mad. But this is like 2012. Yeah. And then so I had this understanding of, because my shows in Sweden, Finland, Norway and Denmark were huge. And it was because of Spotify. Right. And it was just this kind of music platform where you could get everything. And I saw the correlation between Spotify and tickets. So anywhere that I was on Spotify, my tickets would just go up. So I kind of embraced that on my second album. Right. And there was a lot of people that for a while would hold their albums off Spotify, even like a week or something, and have the physical. And I sort of embraced that on my second album, and then that went really well. And then on the third album, I came back, and then it was like Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, Deezer. And so then that's the new thing, and physical's sort of still going down. And then on this record, it's like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Spotify, Deezer, Apple, Amazon. Like there's just like everything. So I'm trying to work out what it is to release music nowadays. But yeah, I think everyone had a bit of a shock this week when they realised that because I sold, I remember we sold 230,000 day one last time, and it was mostly Tesco. And this time, because mostly people shop online, and also you don't like peruse the shelves when you're in Tesco now, you go and get your food. So the supermarkets have kind of disappeared. So it's now like a new thing of selling music.
What do you prefer as an artist? What do you prefer? Do you prefer that how it used to be with, you know, the physicals and all that?
I don't care as long as people are still hearing the album, and you know the volume of people listening to this album. Like it's not the same week one sales as Divide, and Divide wasn't the same week one sales as Multiply, and Multiply was it's all different, and it all changes. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and this is my fifth like big release, and every single time it's different, but people still listen to the music, and that's all I really care about. Because I mean, like stats and figures they're cool and they're fun and they're good to have at the beginning of, you know, you do X Factor and it goes all of this sort of stuff, but no one actually truly remembers that. Like I don't know what Elton John's biggest album is. I just know what the album I like the most is. I wouldn't be able to say this one sold 50 million copies and this one isn't this great because it sold 20 million copies. I'm just like, which one is good? And that's actually what you're left with.
But your numbers are mad, Ed. They are mad. Like I was looking at some stuff and I was like, what the fuck? Like how is that even possible? I think I've read like Shape of You is like the most streamed song in the UK. Like surely it must go to your head a little bit, because I'm telling you, after this interview, no one chat to me for about a whole week. I'm gonna be like, yo, on God, like, are y'all motherfuckers understand what's going on here? Like that's.
But I want to say, I'm so happy we're doing this. I'm so happy we're doing this. I think like I actually love your platform, and I actively watch it, and they're always great interviews. And what I love about your platform is anyone watching the interviews, they know it's not like some media trained answer, it's just literally a conversation. But no, in terms of numbers, I wish I could go back to Divide time and soak it up a little bit more, because when it was out, I remember Shape of You going, it was the fastest song to hit 1 billion streams, and then we sold like almost 800,000 week one in the UK, and it was like 1.2 million worldwide first week, and then the tour and all this stuff. But I was always like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And now people say the stats, and I'm like, I never even toasted a glass of champagne then. I was literally just like, okay, cool, but what's the next thing? And I do look back at it and I'm like, I wish I'd soaked it in a little bit.
Do you think now that you're in a different place in life, you will kind of soak up billion streams now? Do you sit down and think, wow, that's amazing? Or are you still have that?
Every now and then. When Bad Habits came out, the first 3 days of streams and sales were, this is the other thing, like my career has changed to a point, like it's not day one where everyone goes to listen to it. So whereas Shape of You it was like fucking massive from day one, but Bad Habits is now, it's just stuck for like 5 months, and it's gonna be a similar sort of hit, but it's not the same feeling, because it's not. So the first 3 days of Bad Habits coming out, it like midweek to like number 4 or something like that, and everyone was like, fuck, I thought we were gonna debut at 1. But then like, so I sort of came to terms of like, oh, now my career's in a different space. But then it sort of climbed and climbed and climbed by the end of the week and ended up at number 1. And it's the only award that I have in my house at the moment is the Bad Habits number 1 award. Because it was the first time I was like, fuck, this isn't promised anymore. And I actually really, really appreciate this number 1. And that's mate, because I remember Perfect going Christmas number 1, which in any other time, that would have like made my year. And I remember sitting with my manager being like, well, yeah. and that is a dangerous, dangerous place to be in, because that's when you don't actually appreciate it.
Because I was going to say that to you. You've done so well. I sat down with Cyan for the Plus 44 podcast that we spoke about you, and she was saying about, you know, you used to sleep on her mum's sofa and all these type of things and whatever, and you've obviously told these stories before. But do you ever get scared? Because I guess you kind of just touched on it about everything coming to an end? That feeling of like, because you just said Bad Habits, it entered at 4 and you was thinking, oh wow, like nothing is promised.
Yeah.
So do you ever have that feeling like, even though I'm Ed Sheeran and I do mad numbers and I've got a mad following, there could be a time when no one gives a fuck about me anymore?
It's kind of a good problem to have, like the big numbers. But then if you don't overachieve every single time, you know, if you have the biggest streaming song in the world and then you come back and your song kind of does like a quarter of that, it's still like a big success. But everyone's like,
oh, my man's falling off, man.
In it.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no, it really is. So I think for me now, it's less about being scared about falling off and just wanting to always be in the conversation. So I look at Coldplay, for instance, who, you know, their numbers for their new album won't be the same numbers as Viva La Vida or X and Y or blah, 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 but they're still being played next to Kid Laroi and Olivia Rodrigo on Capital Radio, and they're like 25 years into their career. And that's, you know, people are still listening to them. So all I want is that people still listen to me, and I don't have to. I know I'm not going to have a tour bigger than the last tour I did. I know I'm not going to have an album bigger than Divide. I'm fine with all of that. But I think falling off isn't doing less than your biggest success. Falling off is just like not making great music that people don't want to listen to. I think because there's still, mate. There's some of my favorite albums of the last 5 years aren't like massive sellers, but they're just great albums. You know.
You bought Elton John a giant marble penis.
Yeah.
How can I get one of these giant marble penises?
Do you want one?
Oh my God. I talk about sex all the time.
ZEZE.
If I had a giant marble penis in my house.
When I tell you the guy that made these penises made about 20 of them for me to pick from, I can get you one sent tomorrow.
Oh my God, how big is it?
It's like that big.
Oh my God, and I'll just have a penis in my house. Can I pick the color?
Well, they're all sandstone.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get you a, you choose a stone, I can get you one made.
What? I'm gonna get a giant penis in my house.
What colour do you want?
I just want a black big penis.
Okay.
That's what I want.
Okay, I need to find, yeah, there's definitely black marble ones.
Really?
It's gonna be expensive, but I got you.
Oh my, this was just like a passing comment, like the penis thing.
No, ZEZE, when I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. You're gonna get a big black marble penis.
Listen, I'm gonna get a big black marble. Everyone's looking like I can see
I got Sam Smith one made that's 6 foot tall.
I saw a video of you, actually, my friend sent it to me, of you singing along to the Caribbean version of Shape of You, right?
Oh,
and that was literally.
I've done a song with her.
Did you?
Yeah. Jamal sent me a post that she'd done about how this, because I think she got a bit of backlash for that song. Because man, I wouldn't have ever known, but I think the dancehall community gave her a bit of backlash because she was basically saying equal rights, innit? And
about the going down on the. Listen, we all know. Listen, guys, if you're not doing that, it's a sad situation
they
for
all
you.
Do.
Ed, tell them now, please.
I don't have to tell them. Everyone does it. Some people just admit that they don't. But
this is what I'm saying. Listen to Ed, okay, guys. All you guys out here saying that you don't do it, fix up, man. It's really sad.
So I just DM'd her because she said in the post that the song, she didn't go to my label because she knew it wouldn't get cleared. And so I just DM'd her being like, hey, if you want that cleared, like we can clear that tomorrow. And then, so we were sort of chatting and she sent me another one of her songs and I was like, man, that's fucking great. So I just sent her an idea on guitar. And then that day she sent me an idea back and then I was like, oh, fuck, cool. So then I recorded a little bit and sent it back and within like 5 days we had this tune. I'm recording my bits properly today and I'm gonna figure out a way when to put it out, but it's good.
Does your label get annoyed with you?
Yeah.
because what you just told me now, I'm pretty sure they're probably like, no, what are you like? No, this is not a thing. Why are you doing this?
But I think it is. I think it is a thing because I think they at the beginning of my career, I think they would have liked it if I was a bit more mysterious and, you know, I just made an album and I put it out. But I made a collaborations project. I worked with Slicks when I was 15. Like I've always done it. I just love making tunes with people, and I think they've now got to a point where they know it doesn't necessarily damage the brand. Right, you know, it's not like if I put that song out, it's going to eat into the sales of Bad Habits. They both exist in separate worlds, and also like when it makes sense, you know, that I heard Shauna's song when I was in the Caribbean, and then I spoke about it 4 years later on a radio show, and then we get in touch, and then we make a song, and then we put it out. That's a story. It doesn't happen. It's not like a record company board meeting thing. Right. And I think those moments, much like, you know, the Tion thing happened really naturally. We just started speaking. it was Jake Gosling was working with him, and we just Zoomed, and I spoke to him, and then same with Central C, I spoke to him on Zoom with Jake for the first time, and it wasn't like a board meeting thing where it's like, this is what we have to do. So yeah, I think my label are at a point now when it comes to collaborations, like mad. Like I literally spoke to Young Ads yesterday, and I don't know if it's for D Block Europe or whether it's for him, but I'm going in to record something for him today, and that's just through Jamal being like, I think because Young Ad said that he was the bando Ed Sheeran, so I was like, well, let's do a song then.
I think that's why people love and respect you, because sometimes people get to a certain level and then it's almost like they don't want to fuck around with certain people anymore, and it's like, nah, I'm here now, and yeah, sorry, but it seems like you're still so connected and you still make an active effort to make sure that you stay connected and to collaborate with people that people probably think, why are you doing that?
Well, because if you lose the joy of creating music, like what's the point? Like my only rule is it good? Is it good? Do I like it? It's never like, you know, I've worked with artists that are hot and that's their thing, and you work with them and that's the moment. But like, if it's not good, it doesn't make sense. I love UK rap, and I love UK grime, and I love UK drill, and I love bashment, Afrobeat, dancehall. Like I love it. And if I stop being plugged in and listening to things and getting excited about things, that side of my life, the joy of it just disappears. And then I'm just listening to depressing singer-songwriter music 24/7, you know?
Is there anyone that you've wanted to collab with, but you haven't been able to?
What, that I've asked them to collaborate?
Yeah, and you've asked and they're like, nah. Or are you at that?
No, I mean, the Jay-Z situation was an interesting one, because we had been speaking, I've known him for maybe like 7 years now, and we've been speaking for ages about doing a song, and I sent him the Take Me Back to London beat, and he was like, this would be great with Stormzy. And this is like before I'd even knew that Jay knew about Stormzy's music. And so I was like, cool. So I spoke to Mike, and Mike was like, yeah, send me the beat, I'll do a verse. But then we were all in South Africa at the same time, and I was like, this is going to be a moment if I get everyone in studio, rather than Jay does his verse, Mike does his verse, I do my thing. I was like, let's get us all together. And I think, I mean, everything happens for a reason, but I think had I not wanted the vibe of the studio, that song would have happened. And I don't know whether that would have been a good idea or a bad idea. But we were in the studio, and Jay just asked Mike, what do you think of the song? And Mike just said, honestly, he was like, I think if we were going to do a tune together, it wouldn't be this song. And then they had this whole, it was a beautiful moment, a really, really beautiful conversation. And I know it's the first time that Jay has been in a room and someone's gone, yeah, I don't want to do it. And that I think was that moment, like culturally, and Mike had it, it was kind of filmed a little bit, and it was at the beginning of his Glastonbury performance. But I think that moment culturally was actually more important than, because what I wanted was the moment of the two giants coming on a song together. So I don't regret that situation, but that's definitely a song that I think I'll probably still work with Jay at some point. But that was the one time where it kind of almost happened and then didn't. But
does meeting people like Jay-Z, does it ever still feel like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think if you, I get that with UK artists though. I get like so buzzed when, I mean, I remember being a bit like, first time I met T, I mean, Tion is like, he's a big guy. I remember being like, oh man, you do get a little bit starstruck sometimes, even at like, I know that sounds weird to say, but when you see people online all the time, you know, I see you online all the time, and now we're in person, it feels different, doesn't it?
Ed, behave.
No, but it's
serious.
No, but it does. I'm not saying it's like a proper start. I remember the first time meeting Beyonce. That was like oh my God. But you know, it's
this moment for me is a mad moment for me, because I've been doing ZEZE MILLZ Show for like 4 years now. And this is definitely like my biggest interview yet. It's a mad feeling. Like, I'll be honest with you, I had a little cry this morning because I was talking to my friend just about everything, that the journey that I've been on. And I think everything gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes because like you're saying, when you're like living in it, you don't actually see like how far you've come and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you tell someone, and sometimes you don't realize how big things are until you tell somebody else. So,
but you're the platform that if people want to come and have an open, honest conversation. And this is what I love about it as well. It's not edited. It's not half an hour strict. It's just like it is what it is. And I spend a lot of time. I'll go in the gym in the morning, where I usually go in with my daughter. But if she's not there, I'll put on Julie Adenuga interview and just have it on and just listen. And it's really insightful to hear different sides of people that isn't. Like I'm not coming on this to promote my album. I'm coming on this to have a chat. And I feel like people they don't come on the show to promote something. They come on the show to show a different side of them that people might not know.
And that's kind of how, when I used to watch interviews back in the day, I'd watch it and I'd be like, oh, but we know that the album's come out and this is why they wrote this song, but I don't know what your favorite color is, or I don't get to hear stories. And I think when I did my research on you, that's what I think is really good about you when you do interviews, because I literally type in Ed Sheeran and random shit just comes up, like, oh, Ed Sheeran talks about why he doesn't like to use urinals. And it's like, what? How did they get to that point in the interview? Like, where did that come? Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, my rule on Claire will tell you, my rule on this album has been no press. I think we've done 2 press things because stuff just doesn't come across well when it's written down.
Yeah.
And so we're doing loads more like podcasts and sit down interviews where you just talk, because I feel like nothing can get taken out. Even that comment, the urinal comment, if you go back and listen to it in context,
it sounds right.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Overpass graffiti, right?
Yeah.
How does that work? Because I listened to the song and you're talking about ex, heartbreak. You're now married. How does that work? Because maybe I'm just immature, but I would be like, why are we talking about? How does that work?
I think albums have to be honest, but also like, if the whole album is just, I love my wife, I love my kid, my life's happy now, blah blah blah, then it's a bit boring. It's a bit boring. And my wife married a songwriter, so and you're open to write about anything, and all of the songs that I write come from like real life experiences. They might be like 10 years ago or 2 months ago, but they're all real life experience. She knows that I'm not in that place anymore, but she also knows that an album, she'd get bored listening to an album of me just being like, you're amazing, you know?
I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be like, play that shit again and again and again and again.
But you have to, you have to have a kind of spectrum of a rainbow on an album. An album can't just be one thing. It has to be lots of things. So, and Overpass was originally a power ballad, so it was a lot slower. It was like, I will always love you for what it, and I wanted to have a big power ballad moment on the album, and just production-wise, it sounded better, sped up a little bit, but yeah, I get where you're coming from. But this is why I've married my wife. She is so cool she's not insecure about our relationship. Right. We are solid. We have a kid. We're probably going to have a few more kids. Like we're solid.
I'm just immature. I know that as well. Maybe one day I'll get to that level of maturity.
But you will, if you're married and you have a kid with someone, you're like, I think we're solid at the moment.
Well, yeah. Maybe that's because I'm single and childless. That's why I don't quite understand that yet. What's next for Ed Sheeran? Acting? Because obviously I know you did Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So any more of that or?
Nah. I mean, I'm a cameo in this movie with Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot, and The Rock that comes out on the 12th. I'm in it for like 3 minutes, but it's funny. Basically, when people. Every now and then someone will come to me and say, I'm going to do a cameo in Some Otherhood as well.
Okay,
yeah,
that's sick.
I got a random email from a friend of mine who's working on the film saying, Adam would love to call you and talk about a part, and it was a funny part. So like stuff like that, when someone just goes, hey, can you come for a day and film? So yeah, that's kind of next. For me, next year, I just want to spend the year having fun making music. I've kind of made my artistic statement, and now next year I'm going to do the Young Ads feature, I'm going to do Ashana, I'm going to do Tion, and do Fumes. I think the Fumes song is going to be me and Quengface, which I'm quite excited about.
Nice.
Very different, but yeah, I don't think Quengface knows that yet.
Well, now he knows. He's going to find out today. He's going to find more.
But yeah, no, I'm going to do a year doing that, and then I've got a remix of a song that I have on my record called Joker and the Queen that's going to come out with a big artist on it, and then I'm going to repackage the album in like September, so I've got more songs leading up to that, and then once the repackage is out, then I move on to the next album, which is kind of done. So So that's sort of what's next.
Well, they're telling me I have to wrap up.
No.
I know we could talk.
No. We got. Come on, bit. Have I got a lunch break? How fine?
Oh, no. Ed wants to talk for longer, guys.
Do you want to cut my lunch break, mate? I'll have like a wrap. Cut my lunch break.
Well, not long. It's just a little. But I think even the card as well is probably. But oh no, they're shaking their head. They're like, we've got loads of time. No, but it's just. Claire's like, no, sorry, no way.
Claire, I'll go from here to the next place.
Not long.
It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable.
I wish more people kind of in your position would kind of have the mentality that you have, because I found it really hard to get like certain caliber of people that are career.
But I think people are scared to come on because they're worried about the direct questions that you would ask. But I said this to Claire when I said I wanted to do this. Like, if you have nothing to hide and you're honest, how can you be caught out? Like, that's my point. Like, how can you
listen to what you say, guys?
And honestly, you're not going to get a better interview than this. Like, this is a great interview and a great chat, and we've been open and honest, and people will watch this and not feel like there's anything to hide. So I hope more, as you said, I think quite high caliber people have done the show already.
No, they have 110%. Definitely.
And it's known through all the people that I speak to about me coming on. It's known that if and when the time comes, you were the first person that people will come to, you know?
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What stadium haven't you performed at that you would like to?
Oh, Anfield. Okay. Anfield, Liverpool, yeah. That's like probably like the only, because actually I haven't done Old Trafford. I've done, probably Anfield. I love the Tottenham Stadium as well.
Do you have a ritual, like before you go on stage? There's something
really.
that you do, like where
I used
you
to chain smoke.
Okay, right.
But then I stopped smoking, so not really. My dressing room's always, this is interesting with COVID actually, because this is not going to happen again, but my dressing room is just always packed with people, and I just hang out before the show, and then I'll go on. But with COVID, and also because I'm bringing my kid on the road, there's just going to be like a no one backstage rule, if that makes sense. So it'll be different next time, but I imagine I go on at like 7:38. My daughter goes to bed about 7:38, so I imagine I'll like be hanging with her, give her a bath and a bottle, and then put her down, and then go on stage.
So was your last, was about 4?
It was a long time.
It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It was a long time, yeah. 2 years ago was the last show. 2.5 years ago was the last show, and then I start in April. But yeah, I'm excited to get on tour. I don't know how tour works now in terms of PCRing everyone and making. Right. But I imagine this is just something we'll live with for a long time, like the flu or like.
I think so, yeah. And it's a weird thing because it's like every so often you kind of forget that it's there, and then you get reminded because the numbers are spiked. And you're like, oh yeah, we're living with this now. Yeah. And it's been like the last couple of years has been so weird for everyone. But I can imagine for someone like yourself who's on the go, you got to kind of just sit down maybe and chill out. Yeah,
I think Well,
because you couldn't do as much, or was you really in that space anyway, kind of?
I basically, I had a whole rollout booked, tour, album. My album was meant to come last October, and I had a tour booked for last summer. Mm-hmm. And in January, my wife told me she was pregnant, and I said to my manager, let's just push everything back a year. And then COVID hit. So I had the year that I was planning to be a dad anyway. Okay. Not that I'm not a dad now, but I was full time. So that was going to be my focus last year anyway, was just learning how to parent. But yeah.
And how's that been?
Man, it's, every day is different, and you learn something different every day. And I have a friend called Ollie who we call Captain Chaos because he is a fucking maniac. And when he told me he was having a baby, I remember being like, oh my God, how's that going to work? He is a, I could go into stories, but he's a fucking maniac. And then he had a daughter, and he was an amazing dad. And I just saw this different side of him. So every time I've struggled with anything with my daughter, I go, but Ollie can do it. And that has got me through. And it just, the first few weeks are fucked, and then like the first few months, just like no sleep. And then as soon as she starts sleeping through the night, suddenly your life resumes, and your baby goes to bed at 7, and you're like, oh, we can watch a movie,
Don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like it's a bit like having a dog. Do you have a dog?
No, we have cats though, but
Right.
I get you.
The dog training, yeah, I always say this, yeah. Training a dog is one of the hardest things I've ever had
But
to do
if
in
you
my
don't
life.
do it,
Then they'll be just...
Yeah.
But then once you get... It's kind of the reason why I said it, because you said once they sleep through the night, then it's like, oh, okay, it's back to a bit of
that's
normality.
and discipline as well with a kid. If you don't discipline your kid, at the time it's easy because you're just like, yeah, kind of do it. But then the repercussions later on,
Right,
if you don't
exactly.
set boundaries, you know, that's the key. That's the key. As I said, everything is about balance. Everything's about balance. And my life for the first 4 months after Lyra was born wasn't balanced because it was just like, oh fuck, she's up, okay, I'm up, and oh fuck, it was just everything was centered around sort of making sure that. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it, but the moment that she sort of got in sync with our day and our sleep pattern, and you know she naps for like 2 hours in the day, so sometimes like you can like sync your naps up at the same time. It's magical.
I've looked after some of my friends' children, and that is literally when they sleep, it's like, okay, let me have a nap now.
Yeah.
But I looked after my friend's child during lockdown, and I was like, yo, I don't know how mums are doing this, or dads or parents, because...
The one thing I'll say is I have so much respect for single parents, because I've had a couple of days it would just be me, and quite a lot it's just Cherry, and it's a lot, man. It's a lot, and it's a lot for the two of you. So for single parents, in men and women, so much respect.
Definitely.
Much respect.
Well, Ed, this has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Is there
It's
anything you
been-
want to ask me? I always ask people if they want to ask me anything.
What is your like next goal? Because I find it interesting that like this is flying, and obviously the +44 is flying. But where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because I know you've got a 5-year plan.
I actually don't have a 5-year plan.
I think you have something
In
where
my
you're
head-
like,
Do you know what? I don't and I do, because I think, like I was saying to earlier, because it's been such a interesting journey to get to where I am now, and so many times I've been disappointed or things don't happen, even like with this interview, like, cool, you said it was happening,
And then the
but in my
failure,
head,
yeah.
I'm like, I can breathe now because you're sitting here and we've done it. But even on the way here, I'd be like, oh, we're going to get emails saying, oh, by the way.
there was no way this wasn't going to happen. And I really appreciate you shifting things around.
Because I've had so many of those moments, and it happens in industry, things change, whatever. Because I've had so many of those moments, I never really like to plan, because it kind of, it then caps my disappointment, if that makes sense. So it's probably like a coping mechanism.
I know you have a thing in your, just like I'm like, I want to make an album in this style, and I want to do this, and I have things that I'm going to tick off.
My thing would be, if I could like copy anyone, not copy, but mirror somebody, it would probably be like Oprah, you know? So my own network, so along the lines of that, or just how she does different interviews. Like, I don't always necessarily want to do interviews like that. I'd love to do like, even like how David Letterman does it, where, you know, you go around with someone for the day, and then that would be like my next thing. And probably, like we was talking about earlier, get back into films and all those types.
But you should just do that. You should just do that. Like, you've obviously got your production company. Are you signing podcasts and shows to your thing?
No. I haven't got there. I haven't got there yet. So that will probably be like my next thing. That would be like my next thing where.
So I would say it would probably end up being like ITV or Sky or something that would actually give you creative control, because I think BBC have their BBC way of doing things. If they just came and said to you, can you just be our girl that does the Letterman thing of you would that's the next step basically.
I would, something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
And just talking to people, like I really enjoy talking to people. That's my thing, and not necessarily it has to be celebrities, just normal. I'm interested in people in general. Do you get what I mean? And then also just in general, I'm really passionate about Black women, you know, and just how hard it is sometimes navigating in the industry. Sometimes, especially being a darker skinned Black woman as well, it's difficult. So, and I know how difficult it's been for me. So in the future, I would love to have something where there's like a hub where I can help expose.
But I think the doors that you're
people.
breaking down at the moment is making it so it's making it possible for all of these things to happen. Yeah, and it's great. It's great. I love the platform. Thank you for having me on. And how has Made You Think as well?
What, the guy that made you think himself?
I love that page.
Oh, he's gonna be so happy about this.
Well, I commented yesterday on his thing.
He's gonna be so. He has been one of the people that proper from in the beginning was like really flying the flag for me.
Followed him for years and years and years.
I have so much love for him, and it's so mad because we have such a like weird relationship because he'll message me and tell me something like, I don't really like what you said there, but I love that because it's real. Do you get what I mean?
But that's why I think his page is great, because it is just his opinion. He's
Exactly.
just literally saying,
And the way he
his
puts his
opinion.
captions, he'll be like, "What's you man saying about these new joints? These new jaws." It's just like, how did you even get to this point? And he's.
I love that he posted the Backstreet Boys yesterday.
He does
you know,
random.
like, I love it.
Yeah. And he's really nice. He took me and my mum out for dinner a couple of months ago.
How did you get him on the show though? Because he's so anonymous.
Because he's just always supported me. When he said, I want to do like an interview, just do a round of interviews, I want you to be one of the first. And I was like, yeah, for sure, definitely. And then after that, like my mum messaged me, said, oh my God, he's so, and then I sent it to my mum and he's like, I want to take you and your mum out for dinner. And he literally took me and my mum out for dinner. He didn't have to
Where's he from? Is he South?
I think he's originally from East, yeah. I don't know where he resides now, but he's definitely, yeah.
Cool.
I would never think that was the person that you'd ask about. Made you think?
The first time I ever heard Roddy Ricch was on his page, and this was like Roddy Ricch had a song called Die Young that I think Meek had posted. But then I was in the studio with Meek like a week later, and we FaceTimed Roddy. This is like and I FaceTimed Roddy Ricch, and it was just before he blew. And I think because of that, now there's a relationship for life that I'd posted it on Instagram and stuff. But that was all through Made You Think, and it's how I'm discovering new acts coming through as I go on that. Shade Borough is another one. You go on, like, there's just Shade Borough is.
Do you follow them off your own page, or you got a burner account?
No, I've got a burner account. Yeah, I actually changed my burner account quite a lot because people find out. Yeah, I didn't even know about burner accounts. I just was on my page like watching everything. I didn't realise that people would see that you watch stuff. So,
my friend who's like doing well for himself, he like told me that there's like a secret society of burner accounts between like the celebs. You guys are like a little society on Insta.
I haven't got
where you all
online.
like post your actual real life, and he showed it to me once, and I was just like, rah, like
no,
okay.
I don't do that. I'm literally, it's every couple of months I'll change it. I don't post anything on it, and I promise you, there's literally just maybe like 5 pages that I follow. Made You Think's one of them, and I go on it to stay
up to date,
plugged in. Yeah, I hate the idea of disappearing for 2 years and then coming back. And I'm not saying I go on it every day. I probably go on it like once a week, and I'm just like, what have I missed? Jamal is another one. Jamal, I'll just say to Jamal, send me some new acts that you're loving, and he'll send me a list of people, and I'll listen to them. And it's a way to just keep in the know. Wicked. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. This is the moment. Fucking moment. Thank you so much.